it is in fact your Popboy. I know. I can't believe it either. But at the same time, everything will go back to normal. I just know it, but, in the meantime, we need things like 2K more than ever. So I'm going to be right here, as usual, doing everything I can to make that game experience the best it can be. And you know what it is, and you know what it's time for right now? We're starting a My League series with more of a strategy guide sort of feel to it, if you feel me. And just so you know, this is something I'm planning on doing from jump next season. It'll be much more expansive. It'll include a lot more. We're going to start right from the beginning. Okay, but let's get going on right now. So what I'm going to do in this video, I'm going to do the whole menu of coach settings. Okay, I'm going to show you it all and I'll explain everything. Okay, but if we're going to be real, if we're going to do a legit My League series here, first thing we got to do, before we can get to that stuff, we got to set our roster. Alright, so I'm going to be running with the Grizzlies. Then the first thing I always do to set my roster, I got to check and see if there's anybody where I want to change their position. Alright, that could be a huge deal, and it was in this case. They had Brandon Clark at the 4. I moved him to the small forward because we already got Jaren Jackson Jr. at the 4, and Brandon Clark's just too good. He's too valuable to be a backup. Then his attributes, he's the perfect 3. And this type of player does not grow on trees, people, and especially this year with the transition D being so terrible. I mean, to have a rim protector who's also fast enough to get back on D really fast, that's a huge freaking deal anyway, but especially this year in the game where the transition D is just that awful. Okay, so now that we got everybody in their right position, there's one other thing we got to do. Really important to do this right from the beginning of every season. I got to check the draft class. Okay, I got to determine how much value am I going to place on draft picks this season. Right? I need to know that before I can make any sort of trade. And in this case, we got a lot of good looking prospects, bigs who can shoot, 2 guards who are good playmakers as well. But the thing that sucks is we don't have a first round pick unless it lands in the top 5. We can see Boston's got our first round pick this year, but it's top 5 protected. Anyway, the next thing I'm going to do at this point is I'm going to go pick hunting. Basically, I'm trying to get a sure spot in this draft. So I went into the trade finder and I went ahead with the Spurs offer. I'm willing to bet that they're not going to be as good as they think they're going to be. So hopefully I can see that pick grow in value over the year. All right, so what I did, I had to take Marco. I had to take Bellinelli for a year. I didn't really want to do that, but whatever. I took him for a year. I didn't want to give up Josh Jackson, but they wouldn't do it without him. I tried. We'll see if my gamble pays off, but this was all done using my new trade sliders from the last video. If you haven't seen that, link in the description, but check it out. They're working great. But anyway, we got our roster set up. So now we're ready to get into the coach settings. Let's go. Starting right from the top, the Adaptive Coaching Engine, or ACE. We definitely don't want it on for defense. I've always known that because it interferes with our defensive settings. By the way, I got a whole playlist on those. If you haven't seen it, I'll put the link in the description. But we don't want this thing touching our defense. We want to make our own decisions on those settings. Okay, now ACE for offense. That's actually new this year. So I've done a lot of testing on it to see exactly what it does. Though the only thing that this affects on offense is your series. So first of all, these 2 things are really preference, based on your strategy, how you like it. I put it on dynamic and do not repeat to keep it mixed up. That's what I put it on. But the reason we're going to want ACE on for offense only is because it actually is required to make these 2 bottom settings here work properly. Okay, moving on. I'm going to knock out a few of these settings. They're really easy. They're just about, if you want to have control over shit or not. Like timeout, of course, I want to decide when I call a timeout. Offense and defense play calling, yeah, duh. I want to control that too, so I got these 2 on manual. Late game fouling, same thing. Now, team communication, you can put it on for offense or defense or both or whatever. I put it all off. I don't like it. First of all, for offense, sometimes the messages can get in the way of your shot meter. I definitely turn it off for offense for that reason. It happened too often. Now for defense, I had it on initially. I've gone back and forth a little bit, but every year it seems like I settle, since they've had this, I settle on off. I just end up turning the damn thing off. Because it's too inconsistent. They're not, the message pops up that they're going to do one thing, and then they do the opposite. So they don't do what the damn message says, and it just messes you up even more because you're anticipating it. That's the problem with a lot of stuff in 2K. It's a good idea in theory, but it's the inconsistency. So I turn that whole damn thing off. Let's move on. All this play vision display stuff, feel really strongly about this. You got to put everything on all plays, full, and show all. Okay, and the reason we want it like that is actually very specific. It's because a lot of these options on these plays, they have time limits. So like this one right here, I'm supposed to dump it in to the high post there, but if I don't do it quickly, it'll move on to the next option. Now it helps to be able to see that right away, so you can adjust. Like right here, I'm like, no, I don't want that option. Let me call the damn play again. Everybody resets, start over. Oh my god, you did it again. Holy shit. Okay, one more time. God, man. So you just want to be able to see, everything that's supposed to happen, when it's supposed to happen, especially since a lot of these plays have options that you rarely see, you forget about, but mainly the timing. That's why I turn all this shit on. Okay, now, best for last. This is my system for lineup management, rotation, substitutions, all that stuff. Okay, so first of all, the settings, player minutes, we want that on manual. Okay, now we want the substitution on auto. Okay, and then we got the substitution method on rotation. So we get to do the strategy, we get to come up with a plan, and then we just have the coach execute our plan for us. And when it comes to making that plan, we just come into the coaching tab here. We go to coach game plan, hit all teams. And of course right here, you can move people up and down the rotation, change their minutes. That's if you want to get basic. I don't really do basic when it comes to 2K, clearly. So I'm going to hit options to go into the rotation timeline. Probably the least surprising thing ever. I actually sit here and do this shit. Map out the whole, the whole game of when I want everybody to come in, when I want them to go out. I know it looks like a lot and it would take forever and it'd be super tedious, but once you do it a couple times, it's not that bad. I mean, the one thing that does suck is if you do have a change in your rotation, you do have to do a brand new timeline. But like I said, you do it a few times, you get the hang of it. It doesn't take that long. Guys, if you want to do that, that's what I do. If you just want to go more basic, however you do it, not that important. Just depends on how detailed you want to get. So yeah, well, once we get to the game, it works pretty seamlessly. You don't have to pause the game and make all the substitutions yourself. Just a pain in the ass. So he'll do everything you want to do for you throughout the whole game. So perfect, easy. Hate pausing the game and having to make substitutions. Now, you can still do that. Like if it's a special situation, you want to make a strategy change. Or if you have a guy get in early foul trouble, you will have to manage that part yourself. But if you do have to manage some foul trouble, that's not gonna mess up our rotation or anything like that for the rest of the game. The coach will still follow our original plan throughout the remainder of the game, so that's good. Now, if you have a guy foul out, that for whatever reason does screw up the coach. He'll just make random ass subs, for the remainder of that game. So once that happens, I'm doing manual subs, for the rest of that game. Okay, so that's one thing, but that's just like a minor inconvenience. Otherwise, this system is great. It's just easy. We still get to have all the fun of doing the strategy, but during the game, we can just play. Okay, so that is how you do it. Get in the comments if you have any further questions or anything else. And tap that like button if you enjoyed, if you found this video useful. I appreciate you guys. We're going to have more coming real soon from this series, which will include actual gameplay, in-game strategy, all that stuff. I'm getting back in the lab right now. Let's continue to uplift each other in any way we can, and I'll be right back here next time on 2K with the Pep. What?